Hello and welcome to With Heart and Soul podcast. You're listening to your host, David and Jacky. Hello, David.
Hello, hello, hello.
So today we are going to talk about we're going to talk about two different topics, but as per usual, things can go in any direction because that's just how we are. But today's goals are to talk more about our episode with Evie. That episode was just released to you guys today because it is Thursday as we're recording this. So we hope you guys are enjoying that episode. I personally thought it was so good. But I could be biased. I really just thought it was so good and very educational and helpful. But yeah, so today we want to kind of like dissect the episode, just give our thoughts on it. And aside from that, we're going to be talking about a book that we both read. It's called Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. So we're going to talk about that book and talk about what we learned. And we will also put that in the description so that you can check it out.
Yeah, it's gonna be a very not action packed. I was gonna say action packed, but very packed episode because we're talking about a lot of different topics. But yeah, just to start off, I of course rewatched the podcast episode from last week, and then of
Mhm.
course I had to watch it again for editings and purposes. But it was amazing to me because we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but we don't really see a lot of cases like that as far as like with you and Evie, where you guys aren't able to come back together and be friends, especially after a fallout that you guys had because of the fact that people hold grudges, people get resentment, and it's kind of like, well, I don't need that person in my life. That's bad energy, whatever sayings that we see on social media nowadays, toxic relationships and things of that nature. So it's like, wow, it really showed me one that growth is real, for
Mhm.
real, for both you guys, and also that healing is real as well because both you guys had to go through your own separate healing journey to get to where you are now. So
Yes, exactly. For me personally, I believe in forgiveness a lot and I believe in second chances a lot. And I feel like most of us only consider second chances when it comes to a relationship, but that's not the only type of person that needs a second chance. Like I have an estranged relationship with my parents. And I do think that if they had something truly valuable to say, or as I mentioned in the last episode, if there was true remorse, I am open to a second chance. And Evie also said people don't let people change. And that's true. If you do one thing, or even several things, and the general public knows what you did, they brand you as that and they don't let you be a different person. It's like when someone goes to prison, no one lets them have redemption. They come out into the public and they don't have a second chance. They can't get jobs, they can't rent apartments, they can't live in certain areas, and on top of that, society doesn't let them change. But some people who were prisoners are some of the best people in the world.
no, I mean that's a powerful analogy because of the fact that so many people, as we know, being minorities, some of these people either, so there's cases where they're definitely guilty, they did commit the crime, but there are some cases where they weren't guilty and they didn't commit the crime and they were just accused of something, and maybe they didn't have a good lawyer, or they didn't have enough money to get out of jail, or they didn't have enough support from family members, and now they had to live in prison with their sentence, and they didn't have opportunity to come to society and say, hey, I was put in this situation and now I can get myself out. Sometimes people can't get themselves out until they have to serve whatever they serve. And it goes to show that everyone deserves grace. And I'm learning that more as I'm growing older, and I'm in my 30s now. I guess I'm getting a little bit wiser, but everyone deserves grace. Not to say that everyone is willing to say that they need grace, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's better for you to say, okay, this person deserves my grace, instead of you having to put the same mask, or put the same facade that they think that they who that person is. Like, okay, well, yeah, I know this person from doing ABC, or I know this person from the stories that I've heard from this about this person, or I know this person from how they treated me before in the past, but that doesn't mean that that's who they are today. And I think that's the biggest thing about it too. So
Yeah, exactly. And I just realized today, because Jackie listened to the episode today and we were talking about it, I realized that something that me and Evie have in common is that it felt like our general public hated us. Like general public as in like maybe family friends that you grew up with or like your partner's family members,
Mhm.
and things like that. It felt like those people were judging you and like hated you, and that kind of added on to the pain. And that just goes back to what I'm saying, like where people just judge you and they don't let you change. And I still don't talk to a lot of people from after I got my divorce because so many people judged me so much. And I think that that makes, you know, coping with things more difficult. But yeah, my point in all of this is the reason why our friendship rekindled is because I do believe that people are capable of changing, and I allow her to change. She has changed, and I will allow the narrative of her to change in my mind. She's not the person that she was before, and that's a fact.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I definitely loved it, especially from me being on the podcast and I guess being the fly in the wall when you guys were reminiscing about times that you guys shared, the ups
Yeah.
and downs, and how you guys even met. I think it was so cool that, as you said in the podcast, that I still remember those times that we shared and
Hmm.
those good memories and also the bad memories. But I also am willing to say, hey, I'm willing to have new memories with this person as well, even though whatever happened in the past, because I know this person was going through a situation at that time. And now that they got past that situation, that doesn't mean that I should still look at them as the person that was in that situation. It's okay for me to say, hey, I know this person overcame this, so let's see where it will go from there. I think that's a lesson for everybody listening,
Hmm.
everybody watching as well. It's like, yeah, maybe some people did some bad things to you. And I'm like, trust me, I understand that if it's really hurtful, I get it. But at the same time, if you find in your heart to forgive that person completely. I think sometimes we say that we forgive that person by just words, but then we'll still treat somebody differently and not treat them as if you forgive them. But sometimes it's better for us to say, okay, if I'm really trying to forgive this person, let me forgive that person with words and actions. Because if you
Hmm.
just say you forgive them with words and they make one little mistake, you go, oh well, that's why I wasn't friends with you before. That's why we broke up before. That's why we did this before, because of the fact that you are doing the same habits. But I'm like, okay, you said that you forgive me, but did you really forgive me? Or are you
Hmm.
just saying it just because? So
Yeah, exactly. I remember when I had like my spiritual awakening that I always speak of, I started to think less about what other people did to me, and I started to think more about what I had done to other people. And
mm,
I started to really like reflect on myself. And instead of pointing the finger at other people, I started to point the finger at myself. And by that, I don't mean I was guilty myself for experiencing things that I didn't deserve. I'm talking about that even though people had hurt me, I had still been hurtful. And I started to just think of all these things I had done. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here being upset and like pitying myself because people have hurt me so much and they're not sorry. But I
mm,
have hurt people and I wasn't sorry.
yeah.
So I remember like going through my phone, not all on the same day, but I had apologized to a bunch of different people. But
Mm,
I had a friend who we used to text like every single day. And I don't know, it must have like gotten to a point where it was like overwhelming me or like annoying me. And instead of saying that to her, I literally just ghosted her. Like she kept reaching out to me. She's like, are you okay? Like just I just want to know if you're good. Like she would message me on Facebook and everything. And I literally just ghosted her until she gave up. And I apologized to her and I was like, you don't have to be my friend, but I'm sorry. And she responded and was like, I have already moved on, like without your apology. Like, I don't need your apology. And I was just like, you know what? That's fair. We are friends today, but it took a lot for her to trust me again because, you know, that was really messed up. Ghosting people hurts deeply and it's very confusing.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. And I think the thing about it is that sometimes when you're walking, and I think there's a positive and negatives like on your journey of growth and healing, because sometimes, especially for me, I always try to focus on, well, what can I do next? what can I do for the future, for my future self? What can I do to make myself better? But at the same time, I don't really think about the people that I've hurt along the way to get to that point, or the
Mm,
people that may have had hopes for me to do something or expecting me to do something and I dropped the ball or things of that nature. And it's like we kind of have like a revisionist history. Like we always focus on certain things
mm,
in our past, whereas there are a lot of people that you meet in your life, and some people you don't talk to anymore, which is fine. But that doesn't mean all the situations that you don't talk to was just pleasant. Like it was just a mutual end. Sometimes you just stop talking to somebody and that was it. Or sometimes that person stopped talking to you and that was it. Not to say that you should need to go back and talk to them like, hey, we haven't talked in 10 years. Maybe we could, but no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that sometimes you have to take ownership of the behaviors that you have committed in the past as well. Not to say that you need to go give them closure, because sometimes that's not possible. But at the
mm,
same time, own up to yourself that you are not perfect, and
mm.
that's okay. So,
Yes, exactly. Also, one of Jackie's coworkers listened to our episode with Evie, and she wanted us to touch on like what happens when you don't reconcile with a friend, because obviously my situation was rare apparently. So, we wanted to talk about like what it looks like if you don't reconcile with someone. So I have a bunch of people in my town that we don't speak. If we see each other, we're going to pretend we never met each other because we are not, cut
mhm,
off.
mhm,
So when it comes to things like that, there is a mental battle that goes on, right? And so a lot of people might want to know how to move through that. And since I have been through that so many times, I feel like I could have some helpful tips. But number one of the biggest things you have to do is to accept an apology you did not receive.
mhm,
Once you can achieve that, your brain will stop overthinking like, why did they do that, why did it happen the way that it did, or just yearning for the apology, because we all know how healing apologies are. And it would be nice, but you need to tell yourself, I'm not getting one. So emotionally, physically, and mentally, I need to move on from that situation, because that person is never going to see what they did wrong, and they're never going to be sorry. And that doesn't diminish my worth as a person.
That's powerful. I love that. I love that because there's so many, especially like our generation. We're not that far from age, but for our generation, I think we expect people to say something if they do
Mm-hmm.
something wrong, and some people
Mm-hmm.
won't. Some
Mm-hmm.
people won't, and maybe there's somebody out here in the world, maybe in my life or your life, that are waiting for us to give apologies to them, and we're not even thinking about that at all. And it's like it's out of sight, out of mind type of situation. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're hurting, or if I'm hurting, I'm like, dang, I'm waiting for somebody to give me my apology or closure or whatever, and you know you're never gonna meet with them or anything like that, just say, okay, I get it, and move on. Sometimes we can get stuck in the past when we don't need to be stuck in the past at all. So I agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Man, I lost step two, but I had it there. Ooh, hold on, let me think a second. I'm sorry. Mhm. Okay, so I said accept an apology you did not receive.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Oh, okay, here it is. Like I mentioned earlier, stop looking at what that person may have done to hurt you and consider that maybe you did something hurtful at some point or another. Also, just consider that they don't realize how hurtful they have been to you. And also consider that this person was just a phase in your life. I feel like a lot of people have a hard time accepting that. Like they want people to stick around forever. And like I totally get that, because your mom should be in your life forever, but mine isn't. And she's still alive. She's right over there 5 minutes away, and she's not in my life. So that's a hard thing to accept when you think someone's going to be around forever and then they're not. But you have to like wrap your mind around that reality.
No, I completely agree. Like as you were talking, I thought of like a number of friendships that I thought were gonna last forever. Like from
Mm-hmm.
undergrad, college, to master's program, to people I met in church, to A, B, C, D, E, F, G. You could go down the list. And it's like sometimes you think about it, it's like, dang, what happened to our friendship? We were
Yeah.
cool. Nothing happened. At least I don't think so. But it's like, damn, we don't talk anymore. Or you see them on social media posting stuff. You'll like their picture, or you're glad that they're not dead. Thankfully.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like, dang, I wish we can just sit down and have a conversation one day about what happened, or catch up and things of that nature. But you know, at the same time, you don't want to invest. And I learned this myself. It's like, you don't want to invest and put so much energy into something that you're not getting back. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with you giving energy to someone that's maybe feeling down or depressed or going through something. There's nothing wrong with that, or helping somebody. But if you know that person is doing completely fine and they're living their life, and you're continuously trying to reach out to rekindle whatever you guys want to rekindle, and it's not working,
Mhm.
it feels like your effort is in vain, and you're just wasting your time. Not to say you guys won't rekindle it in the future, or it may be gone forever, but you giving out so much energy to someone that's not reciprocating and that goes for any friendship or relationship. It's like you could use that energy to create better friendships. You could be using that energy to create better relationships. You could be using that energy to create a better environment for yourself, instead of you thinking about, man, what if, or oh man, I wish, or oh man, I hope things will get. No, just continue living your life, because as we talked about like a lot of episodes ago, it's like sometimes we focus on the things that we don't have instead of cherishing the things that we do have. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's like you may have lost that friendship, or you may have lost that relationship, but that doesn't mean every single relationship in your life is gone.
Yeah.
It's still there are good relationships in your life that are there, but you're diminishing those relationships because of the thing that you don't have. And it's all about the way you think about it. So
So what I think is funny is that you know how Evie was so surprised that I said she's my best friend.
mhm.
Well, we never actually said that to each other before, but back in that time when we were always together, we were obviously best friends by the definition of the word.
Yeah.
But she was calling someone else her best friend, and I was calling someone else my best friend.
Mm.
Which in reality, like the person who was my best friend wasn't actually there for me fully, and she was like a very self-centered person, and Evie was the one who was always there for me. But I think I was just always afraid to put the title on, because best friend, like that's a title. So I never actually said that to her before, so I think that's why she was shocked. Like I was like, I am, or I mean, she said I am, and it's because I never actually said say that to her, but obviously she is in every definition of the word. But the person who I called my best friend at the time, she got me the job at Liberty Mutual, and she would literally walk by me there and act like she never met me. Like she just would look the other way, not say hello, and it was the weirdest thing.
Mm.
And she constantly like would do things for others or with others that she said she couldn't or wouldn't do with me. Like it was just so weird, and it was like me pouring into this friendship, because as you can tell, I pour into friendships, and it was like me not getting anything, and it was so strange. And every time I would have a conversation with her, she would kind of like gaslight me and like make me think that I'm asking for too much. Like she would literally tell me, I am not Evie. I am not like Jacky and Jossie. Like I am me, and I will never be like that. Like I have my own life. I'm a mom. Like I can't be up your ass. And that would make me feel terrible, and it would make me feel like I am asking for too much. And eventually after my divorce and everything, she continued to like not really be the most supportive friend. She was very judgmental, and we just completely stopped talking.
Mm.
So the year was coming to an end, and I was like, you know what? I'm not ringing in this new year without like saying anything to her. So I sent her the longest text, like explaining everything. And she literally responded again, gaslighting me, like telling me, I'm a mom, I'm busy, like I can't be there for you like that. I'm sorry that you felt like I was judging you. And then I automatically felt guilty for asking for anything. Like I
Mm.
felt like, wow, I'm so selfish. Like, how could I be asking for all of that? And I literally took everything back when I responded. I took everything back that I said. And we never talked again after that. We literally just never talked again. Jacky was throwing me a surprise birthday party, obviously 2 weeks after New Year's,
Mhm.
and she had invited her. And she said that she was the first person to respond and say, yes, I will be there. On the day of the surprise party, she was like, you know what? I'm not going to be there because I think me and Jacky should talk in person before, we're in a group setting. I think that that'll be awkward. And she said, I'll plan something with her myself. My surprise party comes and goes. My birthday comes and goes. I literally never heard from her again.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
And that was just the last straw for me. And now looking back, I'm like, I literally let her gaslight me. Like everything I said was valid. You're never asking for too much. You're just asking the wrong person.
Hmm. Wow. That's crazy. That's crazy.
So yeah, that is the situation where, that relationship is not going to reconcile because why? She has an inability to reflect on how she was hurtful and she's not remorseful and she doesn't want to reconcile. So I had to go on. I had to go on with my life.
Yeah, you had to. You had to because what would it be if you would just sit you to this day be like, oh man, I wish we were friends, and you would have never created any new friends from that point on.
Yeah.
Like, don't let. I mean, you couldn't let anybody diminish the idea of a friendship in your life because of just one person. And it reminds me of a story that is, I guess I'm triggered by this because the fact that as you know, I'm from the Bronx, New York. And I have friends. I had a lot of friends, and I had friends in New York when I was younger, and we always used to like go to each other's houses and things of that nature. And I remember it was one day, it was like middle, I went to Catholic school, so it was like third or fourth grade, whatever. And I remember the teacher was asking different kids in the class, like, "Who's your best friend?" And they came to me as like, "Oh, who's your best friend?" And I told the person who I said the person's name, and the person was in the class, and he was like, "No, I'm not your best friend." And that trick, like that to this day, I don't really use the word best friend a lot. I really don't because I'm like, dang, like I don't know who's actually really my best friend because I thought this person was my best friend. Like we used to go to each other's houses, play games and stuff like that. And it was like, damn, like what is a best friend then? But I mean, of course, I'm grown. I'm 30 years old now. So I have a lot of great friends. My wife is my best friend. That's first and foremost. I have great best friends, male best friends. I have a female best friend. And it's like, it took me a long time to realize that, hey, just because some people don't want you doesn't mean other people don't want you in their lives. And I think that's for anybody's listening and watching. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, yeah, there may be people that you meet that don't want you in their lives anymore, or don't want to spend time with you anymore. But there are people who do, or there's people in the future that you're going to meet that will, as long as you're open and honest and you just be yourself. There are billions of people in this world. You haven't met everybody in this world yet. So with that being said, that doesn't mean every single person in this world is going to hate you and not want to be friends with you. Just be open and be yourself, and you're going to attract the people that you want in your life. So
Yes, exactly. That's something that I'm still learning just because I went through so many losses. I mean, I don't like to call them losses because I feel like people lose me, I don't lose them. But
mhm.
I went through a lot of relationships ending after my divorce. And I think I got like really jaded and I've had a hard time making friends. But now, I mean, as of this year, I'm just like, I'm opening myself to it. I'm opening to like let myself love people and trust people and let people love me. But you have to allow it and you have to welcome it spiritually and emotionally because if you have like this jaded view, then nothing good is going to come to you in that area that you're yearning for.
Yeah. It's no, you got it right. You killed it. But the the crazy thing about it is that if anyone wants to have an example of what it means to just randomly meet somebody, have a conversation with somebody, and you guys become good friends, look at us. Like literally, I was friends with your fiance Jacky, and I was doing videos. I was like, "Hey, I wanted to do videos about different topics," and as we told the story plenty of times, like, she said no. She recommended you. You were like, "I don't know this person. Let me actually talk to this person on the phone before I talk to him because he might be crazy." But we talked to the phone, and we had a great conversation, and we did the video, which I posted like earlier this year in January, and we started a podcast and we talk every week now.
Yep.
So it's like just off a whim, just because we were both open for it, we became friends, and now we're almost 20 episodes in on a podcast.
Yeah.
And we've done plenty of other stuff as well. So use us as an example if you're thinking like, oh, I can't make new friends. We literally became new friends last year, and look where we are now. So
Yes. One thing that I always try to remind myself, and this is right before we shift gears to somebody's daughter,
mhm.
but one thing that I always try to remind myself is that love is worth loss. Like it's better to have loved than and lost than to not have loved at all. And
Mhm.
I think people are just so afraid of that. They're just like, if I love someone, I can lose them. You can lose someone to anything. I
Yep.
mean, to death, which is unspeakable. Nobody wants to think about that, but you can lose someone to death. You can lose someone because you outgrew them for so many reasons, but that doesn't make the experience you shared with them not worth it. And just like David said, there's so many people in this world that are waiting to love you. So,
I agree.
yeah. All right. So, let's shift over to somebody's daughter. So,
Yes.
somebody's daughter is a book that we both listen to on audio.
Mhm.
We both use different apps. I use Scribed, and David uses
Audible.
Audible
Mhm.
from Amazon.
Yes.
So yeah,
Don't be hating on
um,
Audible.
so I listened to it first, and then I suggested it to David. It's a really, really good book. I really like books where it's like an is it autobiography when you write about yourself?
Yeah, I think she titled it as a memoir. I think that's what she said. It was like a
Memoir.
memoir. Yeah.
Yes, I love memoirs, and I love when people really like dive into like their childhood and what it did to them mentally and
Hmm.
emotionally. And that's really the best way to free yourself as an adult. Like really think about everything that happened to you in your life and why you are the way that you are, because you don't have to stay the way that you are. You can just be like, "Oh, I do this because my mom did this, and I don't have to do that. And I don't have to be like that because not everybody is my mom." So that's just an example. But this book is just it's helpful for mental and emotional growth. So we highly recommend it. We will have it in the description. You can buy it. You don't have to listen to it on audio. So yeah, we're just gonna talk about it and talk about like what we learned and everything like that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, there's so many different aspects of the book that we could touch on, but I think the biggest thing for me was how self-aware she was about everything going on in her life. Like she was giving some vivid details, and I was like, dang, like I don't remember all this stuff. I don't remember all this stuff from my child. I mean, I remember some things, but she was talking about very detailed stuff, like
Mm,
from her great granddad going to her great granddad's farm or whatever
mm,
to um her her father, and that's a whole nother concept, but how she felt about her father when she was a child,
mm,
and after she found out what her father did. For background text, her father was in prison for like, I think 20 years or something like that.
mm,
But before she found out what her father did to go to prison, she was so and like adored him. She was so excited, happy. Like, of course, her mom um, dated people after her father went to the prison, but she would always go back to, well, I still have my dad. My dad is still alive. I just wish my dad was here. And then she found out what her father did, and she said she didn't talk to or go see him for like a number of years after that because she didn't know what to say. And then like closer to the end of the book, she's like she went to go see him, and then he eventually got out of prison after serving his sentence. And it's like they're just restarting a whole new relationship because of what she thought as a child was not exactly how it was. And now it's like you're creating a whole new relationship with somebody you don't really know. So I think that was really interesting.
Yeah, I could relate a lot to her when it came to her relationship with her mom. She talks a lot about how she had to take care of her little brother. And I mean, she was much younger, but I remember having to take care of my little sister. Like I would give her baths when she was 6. I did a lot of chore when I was 6. I did a lot of chores when I was 6. Like I had to grow up really fast. And then a lot of people like say to you like, wow, you seem really mature for your age. I had started hearing that when I was like 16, and I always thought that that meant that I looked like like an adult, but I definitely didn't.
Mhm.
It just meant like, I had to grow up fast. I always had to take care of my sisters. I always had to clean a lot. And it started at a very young age. And she also talks a lot about how her mom was just always so angry and like short tempered. And I had to deal with a lot of that as well because, our mothers went through so much and they were stressed and alone, and their children had to deal with the brunt of those feelings and emotions. And I think it's just a good way to realize that everything you do as a parent affects your kids so much, and you need to heal yourself and you need to get better, because if not, you're just destroying someone else's life just because you're so angry.
Yeah, no, that was a real powerful idea, because in reverse of that situation, my mom died when I was 10, and I have a younger brother, and my dad was working all the time, and I had my uncle that lived with us. So it was like, it was us four. My older brother at that time, he wasn't living with us, but I had to take care of my brother, do a lot of stuff for my brother and all of that. And same thing with you. People say, "Oh, you're so mature. Oh, you know how to do this, do that." And I'm just like, because there was nobody else doing it, and we had to get it done. So it's like, all the life skills that I know today is
Mhm.
because of not it's because of necessity. It's because I needed to do it, and I was ordered to do it, and things of that nature. And another thing about the book that really spoke to me, I had it in my head, but it's slipping my mind. Oh, the whole concept of when she was with that, I don't want to give the book super away, but when she was in the shed with that boy that was just
Yeah.
obsessed with her,
Mhm.
and the way she described the situation that happened, it was just like, wow.
Mhm.
Like, she's like, I know this isn't right. I know I shouldn't be doing this, but I just can't move.
Mhm.
And she said that even after that happened, after he left, she was just laying there.
Mhm.
And then fast forward, she had the courage to tell her mom what happened. And she was like, "Oh, that's so and so. So and so did that to you." It's like the mom knew already. But it's like, if you're a mother and you knew, you suspected, or you even thought that that might have happened, how come you never asked her about it? Like, you never even tried to, you know, do all that stuff. And it was even crazy. Like, she gave plenty of examples about how she was developing very quickly for her age.
Mhm.
And she was getting, cat calls and dudes stopping their cars to try to talk to her, things of that nature. And how she was so uncomfortable because she was like, these are the clothes I love wearing, but I can't wear them anymore because it brings too much attention.
Yep.
And her mom would be like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight somebody," but they didn't. It's like, kind of like the idea of like, you're growing up as a child, but people are trying to treat you as an adult, whereas you don't really get to enjoy your childhood. Like, for me, I personally don't think I really enjoyed my childhood too much because of the fact that so much stuff happened in my childhood.
Mhm.
And I didn't really enjoy people who have both their parents, or people who had normal quote unquote childhoods. It's like, dang, I never had that. I can tell you all the big traumatic stuff that happened in my childhood because
Yeah.
I went through it. But it's kind of like, dang, like, and I mean, you're the same way. Like,
Mhm.
when you think about childhood, it's not really like a pleasant idea for me. Like, I mean, I had good parts, there were good things. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of like, not that many pleasant things happen. So, and she was very vivid about describing that. So,
Yeah. Um I agree with that. Not a lot of there were a lot of good times in my childhood, but a lot of unpleasant things happen as well. And you know what we do have in coincidence? I think both of our lives were completely uprooted and changed at the age of 10, because my parents got divorced when I was 10.
mhm.
And that's when I feel like I can vividly remember my mother like shifting into a different type of person. Like I can remember her doing her eyebrows and putting on lipstick. And then I can remember how after this, that did not happen anymore. She
Mm,
completely stopped like fixing herself, and she was just like angry. And it was just weird going from like a two parent household to just one. It's so weird.
yeah.
And Yeah, that makes me sad for my kids, obviously, because that's not what I wanted for them ever. But I do my best to keep my kids out of the mix. And I constantly tell them, adult problems, that's not your problem. Nothing is your problem. Your only job is to have fun. I tell them that all the time. Your only job is to have fun. And my oldest son, he has like anxiety, and he's very like sensitive, and he worries a lot about other people. And I'm like, it is not your job to worry about anyone. It is my job to take care of you.
Mhm.
I strongly believe that my kids don't owe me anything, and I owe them everything. Whereas the way I was raised, it was I owe them everything plus more, and they don't owe me shit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that's crazy. That's crazy how you can meet somebody and you can meet somebody and think they're just a great person, and you have conversations with them, but you really don't know what happened to them in their past.
Hmm.
Like, if we haven't had our conversations, I wouldn't know that all the stuff that happened to you. I just think that, oh, you're a person that always laughs a lot and enjoys life and things like that. Of course you had situations that happen, but at least you're thriving in your life right now. You look healthy, everything like that, but you never know what happened in that person's life that made them who they are today. And that's why I love what you one of the things you first told me about is like, you never know somebody's story. You never
Mm-mm.
know somebody's story. And I think that speaks to me. That still speaks to me today. It's like, you never know somebody's story. And especially with like Ashley C. Ford was saying, it's like, she's a writer. She does literary work, all this stuff. And I imagine the people in her life, or people who know her, like at coworkers and stuff, would have never imagined all the stuff that happened to her unless she wrote it down. And I think that's the biggest thing. Like, when
Mhm.
you write things down, it becomes real.
Yep.
And it's very interesting, very, very interesting. So
Very true. I learned shortly after my divorce that everyone has a story. And I learned that not because anyone told me, but because I was seeking healing, mostly on the internet. And I started to realize that everybody has a story. And I heard so many different stories. I've heard stories on YouTube, I've read books, and like every single walk of life has a story. So, the cat's being let out behind me. I didn't want to get up and open the door, but yeah, everybody has a story, and so that's a reason why you should always be kind, because you just have no idea where people came from. But in the same breath, it is your job to heal yourself, and just because you
mhm.
have a story doesn't mean you're allowed to be mean to other people.
Yeah,
And I can only imagine that my mother's upbringing was very hard. Like, from what I know from her, it was very hard, and I do sympathize and empathize for her childhood. And I do understand more why she was the way she was as a mother, but at the same time, I can't give her a free pass to do whatever she wants to me just because she had a hard life. I had a hard life too, and you don't see me going around destroying people. So at some point, the cycle has to end, you
yeah,
know? And I feel like, at least for my family, I feel like I'm the chosen one. It's going to end here. I'm not raising children who have to go through pain, which is exactly why I didn't stay in a marriage that was not serving my children, because it is not my job to stay with their father. It is my job to make sure that they learn what true love is, and that they learn what it means to love yourself, and to always do what makes you happy. That's the main goal in life. Be happy.
yeah. I think that's a powerful thing as well, because it's kind of like, just like back to the book, like how her mother made her grow up so quickly, with
Hmm.
like all the different men out there she was bringing into their lives, and how the
Hmm.
men were mistreating the kids, and the mother was just like ignoring it and things like that. It's like you had to like force yourself to grow up. And I think that's the biggest thing about it. It's like, granted, I get it. You want your kids at a certain age to be more mature. You want your kids to grow up and not feel like they have to be doing childish things forever. But at the same time, let the kids be kids. Let the kids be kids. Let the kids enjoy life. And I think,
Hmm.
like, especially children from parents that were immigrants, it's kind of like they want you to grow up so quickly because of what they went through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you brought us into this whole new world, and because you sacrificed, granted, we acknowledge your sacrifice, we get your sacrifice, but at the same time, it's like your sacrifice is not our sacrifice. Don't put your sacrifice on us. if
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted that, then you should have kept us. You should have stayed where you were so we could see what the sacrifice is. But if you brought us here to live a good life, let us live the good life. Let us
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the life. Don't make our
Yeah.
lives miserable because your life was miserable to get here. When you got here, let us enjoy it. Now teach us the lessons that you had from the previous countries and continents that you came from. But at the same time, let us enjoy life as well. I mean, but that's a whole nother
Mhm.
podcast episode we could do about. But
I don't even like the idea of when parents like tell you, I sacrificed so much for you. Like, first of all, I didn't even ask to be born. And
yeah,
I remind myself about that with my kids all the time. In no way do I feel like they are indebted to me because I provide a roof over their head and I provide them with food and clothing. That's my literal job. I had children. It's my job to do that. I'm not doing it because they owe me something. Like, I owe them something. I brought them into this world. They deserve everything that I could possibly give to them. They deserve to be happy. They deserve to be children. And that book just made me think more about myself as a mother. So if you're a mom, that's a good book to read. Or also, if you struggled with your childhood, I feel like you could relate to that book as well. And also, an important part to mention is that she says that they were African American and that they were living in an era where Reagan was the president, and that she felt that that was part of the pressure on her mother as a Black mother in America who was struggling financially. She also had a partner who was in prison. And she obviously didn't come from money. She had to work a lot, and she was an angry person for those reasons. And that's valid, but still, it poured over onto her daughter.
yeah, yeah. And that's another thing that's that you said is powerful. It's like because you're going through something doesn't mean you need to share your hurt with everybody. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're going through something, you need to share your pain with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's as you said earlier, it's your job to heal. It's
Mm-hmm.
not your job to spread your pain so everybody can feel it. If you're feeling it, get help for it. Don't pass it on to somebody else and say, because I'm hurting, you need to hurt too. That's selfish. That's cowardly. That's something that is not productive in life. Like, why would you, if you're hurting this way, why would you want somebody to hurt the same way? And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing, like a life lesson for everybody to remember. Like, life is not perfect. We're all gonna hurt. We're all gonna go through stuff. We're all gonna go through tragedies, upsets, and setbacks and things of that nature. But it's not your responsibility to spread that pain to somebody else. Your
Mm-hmm.
responsibility is to find a solution to help you heal from that pain. So
Mm-hmm. Yep. What else can we point out about the book? I feel like the majority of the book was about her childhood and her very vivid memories as she progressed and got older and older. And the book ends with her becoming an adult
mhm,
and, living the rest of her life. Obviously, not perfectly because no one's life is perfect, but
right.
just becoming an adult. She experiences loss in the book. She loses someone
Mhm,
close in her family.
yeah.
um, as we mentioned, her father's in prison the whole time. Her mother gets in relationships with other people. She has other children, because the book starts with her and her brother
Mhm,
that she had with the father who's in prison. And then she
mhm,
dates other people and has other children. Her mother's method of reprimanding was hitting. So she got hit a lot, as did I,
mhm,
and with no explanation. So it's always just like, okay, what did I do? So she mentions a lot how she was very confused about why she was getting hit because she didn't realize what was so wrong.
mhm,
And so when that happens, you start to lose yourself as a person. You're like, what can I say? What can I do? Because I don't know what's wrong and I don't know what's right anymore because I just keep getting hit and I have no idea why.
yeah. I think just like what you're saying, I think another part is like protection.
Hmm.
Like I you can tell like the way she's writing it is like she wished she had her dad there to
Hmm.
protect her. from the boyfriend to her mom's boyfriends to the men that she met in her life to
Mhm.
that story that she briefly touched about New Year's, about the older family
Oh
friend.
yeah.
I was
Oh,
just like, we were the parents. Like, what's going on? Like, it was just
yeah.
like, ugh. But anyway, it's and it made me think about like, dang, like kids need to be protected. Kids
Hmm.
need to be protected. Like, of course, we can't protect them all the time. I don't have any kids, but I do teach a lot of youth, a lot of young kids. I've seen a lot of young kids from when they were little to now they're in college, to graduating college, and it's like they need protection. They need like for me, I want to be that person that was at least a positive figure in their life. Like that's the one reason I strive to like all the young kids that I taught in youth classes, and I still text them to the best of my ability, see how they're doing, because I want them to know at least there's one positive person that they can always reach out to. But
Hmm.
with her story, it's kind of like she had her grandma, but even her grandma, she said her grandma wasn't even all that good too.
Yeah.
She was still gossiping and doing the same thing just like everybody else. So
Yeah.
it's like, dang, like adults, grown-ups in the world, like protect these kids, protect the
Hmm.
kids. Like they're young, they don't know any better. What I think was like you're not, it's not until you turn 25 till you fully learn, able to fully functionally use your brain to the full capacity. And it's like, come on, like protect these kids from all these other adults that don't have their mind right. And it's
Yes.
tragic. Yeah.
Yes, I truly believe what you said, that every child, we can't save every child. I have like the softest spot for children. Like I will literally avoid like news articles or anything that involves children because I'm telling you, I cannot. I just I can't handle it.
Mhm.
I've always loved children. I actually wanted to be a school teacher. But then I had my own kids and I was like, forget that. But anyways, I do believe that as long as children have one good positive figure in their life, they can feel like they can get through anything. Just one person. You might not be able to take these kids out of their living situations and you might be hurting for that, but just know that you being a positive force in their life will get them through that time. And another thing I try to think about is the common story that we all hear. There's two sons, and they both had an alcoholic father. One son went off to college, he became successful. The other son went on to be an alcoholic because
Mhm.
his father was an alcoholic. The other
Yeah.
one went on to be successful and be a good family man because his father was an alcoholic. We're not what happens to us. We can choose who we want to be. We don't
Mhm.
have to be the way that we were raised. And everything's a choice. You can't blame everything on where you came from because at some point you're an adult and you're making this choice for yourself. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest. Back to the book as well. I think when she decided to leave her hometown, where she could
Hmm.
have easily stayed there, went to college and things, like she forced herself to leave because that's all she knew. All her family lived in the same area. Every person she went to high school with was there, and it's like she had to get out of that environment to learn to have new perspectives. And not to say that if you don't have the money to go travel, save money to do that, but at least get out of your own environment and see that the world has so much information and knowledge about it, and just expand and learn your mind and brought the perspectives like, yeah, you may have grew up with these set of people, but those are not the only set of people in this world. Like there's so much to learn and there's so much for you to grow with. So
Yes, I was so happy when she got to go to college and get away from everyone. Like I like wanted to give her a round of applause because I just really saw the little girl in her and I just wanted to hold her. I'm like, I see you. Like,
yeah.
and our childhoods are so similar. And it's so funny because people think that we're so different because we're different races. We're not. We're
Yeah.
all the same. We're literally all the same. Like she was African American, but I'm full Puerto Rican and we were raised literally so similar. And, we're all the same. And I feel like that book helped me realize that too.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's just goes to show that we're not so different than what we think we are. Like, yeah, we're all unique. We all have different traits. We all have different talents and gifts and things like that. But as far as experiences,
Mm-hmm.
we can always relate with each other, because just because you may not have lived the specific way of life that that person has, but
Mm-hmm.
some things happen in your life that are similar,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're like a billionaire, a millionaire, and you know that's that. But especially being a minority in America, like we all are gonna go through certain
Mm-hmm.
examples of, which I don't want to go into detail, but certain examples of what happens to minorities in America. And it's like, don't divide yourself just because of skin color. Like, come on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we all trying to live our lives. We all trying to be happy. We all trying to go on vacation and hit a beach and do this different stuff. So this let's be more kind and be more humbling with each other. So
Definitely. I feel like I was gonna say something else about the book, but I can't remember. Um,
yeah, I'm trying to think of like what else stood out to me. Hmm,
I am remembering though that she left with her grandmother for a few years, and I was also very happy for her during that
yeah.
time. I feel like when she was a child, her perception of her grandmother was different than when she was starting to get older and realize more things. So I do think that she was sincerely happy there, especially because grandmothers are so nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt the same way about my grandmother every time I was with her. She was so nurturing and loving, and I'm sure that was in my mom's experience with her, but she was the best grandmother to me. And growing up, I always like wanted someone to save me, and I used to like envision myself living with other people to be my mom, because I just wanted to be somewhere else so bad. And unfortunately, that trait that I developed has carried into my adulthood, and now when I struggle internally in my adult life, I have the same issue. Like, I want to be saved by someone. I will
Mm-hmm.
literally pick the most random person and be like, you're going to save me. And my brain will do this all the
Wow.
time. And I constantly have to remind myself, like, no, you already know. You save yourself. I already have. And I will again and again and again.
Yeah, I love that. That's powerful. That's powerful. Like we have to remind ourselves sometimes. And speaking of like I didn't grow up with any grandparents at all. Like my my dad's mother died when I was young, like a couple years old. And then my dad's dad, I met him one time when I went to Africa when I was younger. I remember him, but he died like when I was in the teenage years. And my mom's mom, I met her one time in Africa as well, but I never met her dad. And I don't even know if my mom's mom is alive now, but my wife's grandmother's alive, and she's great. She's awesome. So I cherish, and then her sister, so her grandma's sister, like they live together.
Mm-hmm.
And I cherish those experiences. I just sit down and just talk to him all the time because I never had that in my life, and I think it's so cool. Like that's why I personally like. I don't know if I ever told you this. Like that's why I cherish women and I respect women so much, because of the fact that I've lost like a very important woman in my life, and it's like I want to appreciate every person I come in, men and women as well, but I want to appreciate every person I come in contact with, especially women, because of how important they are to this world,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's so special. So that's awesome.
I love that so much. That's so cute. But yeah, it's time to wrap this up. So hopefully we convinced you to read this book, because I know it changed my life, and sounds like it changed David's life as well. And other people's stories will always change your life, and you can't have enough life changing. Like, so
Yeah.
yeah, definitely check it out. I think it'll open your eyes to a lot and help you think. And thinking is good.
Yeah, no, I love books like that, and there's a lot of books we could talk about. I mean, we could definitely talk about a lot of books, but and also if you didn't watch last week's episode, we started off this episode with the our feedback from last week's episode with Jacky's best friend Evie. So go ahead and watch that. Is available now on all podcast stations. And if you want to see what we look like and Evie looks like, go on YouTube. The visuals are on YouTube. And then with that being said, follow us on YouTube, like and subscribe with Heart and Soul Podcast, Instagram. Our reels are popping. Like we reels are on fire. Thanks to Jacky with Heart and Soul Podcast. slide in our DMs and let us know if you like the reels and topics you want us to talk about, because we're definitely open for new topics. And if you want to be a guest, we got the guest stuff rolling out now. So we got the setup for that now. So let us know if you want to be a guest in whatever topic you want to talk about. We're also on SoundCloud as well. Jacky's business, see where we land, seewhereweland.com. I'm still waiting for my order, but
Is in the works. Also, real quick, before
yes.
you proceed,
Mm-hmm.
we do not have seewhereweland.com anymore. We moved to an Etsy shop, so just look up See Where We Land on Etsy.
Oh, okay. See where we land on Etsy. I'm gonna start updating that in our descriptions as well. Yeah, they do some amazing work with thrift clothes and repurpose them and make them look amazing. Um, let's see what else. Oh, Jacky's personal Instagram, love, peace, and kindness. She got her Instagram popping. My coaching business, Collab Coaching, COLAB Coaching, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. Like and subscribe all my videos and series and all that good stuff. My website is yourcollabcoach.com. Sign up for that free 15-minute coaching session. We could talk about anything you want to talk about to help yourself in relationships and complete that relationship checklist to see what you need specific help with. With that being said, I believe that's it. Thank you guys for watching. As I said, go ahead to all your podcast stations and look us up and subscribe to us. That way you don't miss out on the next episode, because our episodes have been getting better and better each time. Don't miss out on this train, because when we blow up, you be like, dang, I wish I got onto this train. I got onto you guys earlier, and now you guys are millionaires with podcast subscriptions with Spotify, and they're giving us advertisement. So don't miss out on it. Don't miss out on it. But with that being said, thank you guys. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a nice day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.